Welcome to Straight from the Horse's Mouth, where we cut the BS and give you the truth all about sports. Once again, I am Bryce Oden, host of Bryce Davis.
What's good?
It's been a crazy week.
Yes.
A very helter-skelter week in sports. LeBron James.
Yes.
Let's get right to it. LeBron James went on the Pat McAfee Show.
Yep.
Let it all hang out.
Just went
Metaphorically.
You know, I think he got to that point where he said, you know what, I'm retiring in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
F being the nice guy.
Right. For people don't know what we're talking about, LeBron James went on the Pat McAfee Show, who somehow keeps landing like all these great guests, probably because he pays.
Yeah.
And pretty much discussed a variety of things, right? Discussed his relationship with the media, most specifically Stephen A. Smith and Brian Windhorst. Talked about his upcoming show, Mind the Game, with Steve Nash. Talked about his son, Bronny James. Talked about like, kind of a wide variety of stuff. But let's start from the top, right? The fact that this happened on ESPN's platform, right? I find it strange because it appears that ESPN, which has long been a source for news and journalism, and has pretty much been that space for quote-unquote journalists, that they would have a program that's not really led by a journalist, led by more of a
that's a
TV personality, media personality at this point, Pat McAfee, and kind of let people come on there and just kind of like crap on other people at the network, right?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers did it.
Yep.
And it caused a ruckus, most notably with Ryan Clark. We did a whole video about it. Go ahead and check it out.
Yep.
And then now with LeBron James with Stephen A. Smith
and Brian Windhorst.
Kind of just catching strays. I didn't like that.
I didn't either.
On ESPN's part, because I'm like, dog, protect the talent.
Yeah, well, it's what the NFL says, right? Protect the shield, protect the brand.
Right.
At the end of the day, my brand is what's most important to me. Mm-hmm. I got to make sure that this doesn't happen on. You can do that anywhere else. I don't really care, but here you can't do that. Yeah,
like show some type of decorum.
Yeah,
you know, and I think
you're a guest,
right? And I feel like ESPN is at this point, like, you know, we're just gonna go with ratings.
Yeah,
and if we have to create the news, so be it.
Yeah.
Right, because, again, our job as journalists is to cover the news.
Cover it, yes.
And then disseminate it and bring it to the masses. That's what we're supposed to do. And then from there, you decide what you do with it as the viewer, right? If you agree with it, disagree with it, whatever, we're just going to bring you the facts.
Yeah.
ESPN decided to do the opposite now, is we're going to become the news ourselves.
Yeah.
So if ain't no news, we're going to create the news, damn it.
Yeah, slow news day, not for us.
Yeah, no. So I'm surprised that they're allowing this to happen because Pat McAfee, I don't know what his future is at ESPN.
Yeah.
I can see him leaving and going back independent. I can see him getting broached by somebody else, a network going like, hey, we'll pay you more to do what you're doing here and just do it here. I can see Amazon doing it at some point, maybe Netflix, maybe who knows? I can see somebody give him that same autonomy. He can still record in Indiana. But because you're doing all this stuff here, so I'm surprised to do it. Just sacrifice. I just don't like it.
Yeah, that part I don't like. But I think the heart of the matter, though, is that this is really an NBA media issue.
Yes.
As much as it is an ESPN issue, this is also an NBA media issue, a thing that we've been talking about for a long time. Mm-hmm. And you've got the notes there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and kind of walk us through some of the stuff that you noticed from this interview, whatever you want to call it.
So let's start with LeBron James's relationship with the media.
Yeah.
Right. He says he no longer trusts the media. He feels like it started with a decision. And he stated that he's fine with media members only talking about basketball, but feels like the line gets crossed often. And he did not just hold journalists accountable. He also took aim at a lot of former players who are in the media, and said that he felt like they weren't smart, meaning you played the game based purely off instinct and athleticism. You didn't play the game based off your mind, because if you did, you'd still be playing. And the reason why he has a problem with that is I guess he feels like only people who can really talk about the game and play the game up here should be allowed to deliver message to the masses. If you only played the game based off instinct, then you really don't know how to. And I said that I feel like the difference between a lot of the football players and the basketball players is, and we see it all the time with the football guys, they don't even know how not to talk technical when it comes to sports.
That's all they know how to talk about the sport.
They have no way. They can't even like dumbify it down. Like, bro, this is how it is.
Yeah, you're going to have to learn it.
Yeah, you have to learn it, right? You know, But basketball, because I guess people feel like it's easier to understand. Even though it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Which is why mind the game is so important, so people can understand these concepts and what's really happening on the court. A lot of these guys don't know how to talk about it, so they just so what they do, they just gossip about the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They do. So what they do is they're not bringing any actual nuance to what we're watching.
Right.
Which is why they blend in with the other media personalities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with that, when he's talked about that, I agree.
I agreed. The only thing I would disagree was the whole decision thing, because that was you.
Right.
You made a spectacle. Right. You invited spectacle to this moment. So that one's on you. But everything else, I 100% agree with.
Well, let me be clear. I think when he meant when he said that, I think he meant that as far as the media turning on him.
Got you.
Not the fact that should he have done or not done the decision, but as far as up until that point, he was kind of.
Oh, he was a darling. Yeah.
It was a media darling.
Yeah.
He people didn't like his playoff exits in 2009 and 2010 to the Magic in 2009 and the Celtics in 2010.
Yeah.
But also a lot of people recognize that he's the face of the league,
Yep.
MVP. His teams weren't the greatest teams. You know what I'm saying? He kind of got a pass because we like LeBron James, doesn't get in trouble and all this kind of stuff. So he felt like once the decision came and the vitriol that came from it, and him going to Miami forming the big three and not one, not two, and all that kind of stuff, it kind of turned the media against him, is what he feels like.
Got you.
Other takeaways from there. He talked about eras.
Yes.
Right? And because like he said, a lot of people always talk about eras and what this guy can do and what this guy can't do. And he stated that he feels like respect all eras in that era specifically. Because he was talking about nostalgia and how nostalgia is possibly bad for the game, and he mentioned that he felt like Giannis could score 250, but could score 250 points in a game in the 70s and all that kind of stuff. And I guess what he's trying to say is respect each era for what it was. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Trying to compare the 60s to the 70s, the 70s to the 80s, 80s to the 90s to the 2000s,
can't do it.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Right, because it's hard to quantify.
Yeah.
Who really can and can't do what?
Yeah. Right. Well, because I think the problem that I think you and I both agree is that the level of basketball has increased every era.
Right.
So it is hard to compare when the floor for the 70s is lower than the floor for the 90s. Mm-hmm. And the floor for the 90s is lower than the floor for now.
Right.
So it is hard to compare eras because a lot of basketball is just played differently now than it was then. Mm-hmm. And I agree with him on that point too. It's like, hey, let's just we have to condense it, right? The 70s were the 70s, 80s were the 80s, 90s were the 90s, and that was that. Mm-hmm. And I can't put a superstar from the 70s up against a superstar from now. It's really not the same,
right?
Because basketball is different.
What do you think about his comment about Giannis being able to score 250 points in a game in the 70s?
I don't agree with that because like I said, I've not seen a lot of 70s basketball, but that was physical. Mm-hmm. They was fighting out there. So unless Giannis is ready to scrap, I don't think so.
I mean, he looked like he built for it.
He built for it, but you got to think differently back in the 70s. You got to be ready to, hey, this man might try to take my head off. Yeah. And I got to be ready to retaliate.
This is different times, wild times.
Yeah.
Guys showed up the game cooked out of their mind.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
They wasn't thinking straight back then.
They drinking beer in the locker room.
Yeah, smoking cigarettes and cigars at halftime.
Listening to the Barry White and Donna Summer and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know about that.
It's a different time.
It's a different time.
I definitely. What do you think about his comments about nostalgia?
No,
and how it hurts the game.
I agree with that 100%. I am over nostalgia when it comes. Cause even for me, right? I can't look at 2016 like I look at 2025. Right. I need to look at basketball as it is right now and appreciate what is going on right now. So even though threes might annoy me, I also realize that there are now more guys in the league who have a reliable 3-point shot, and that's a pretty good thing. Okay,
the next thing he kind of talked about was because Pat asked him about his relationship with Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
and he says he really doesn't really have one, and he felt like they don't talk because he's still playing, and he hopes that like maybe it'll change like when he retired. Because he also mentioned that him and Kobe really didn't have a relationship like that.
Yeah,
like they played together on the 2008 Olympic team, and they played together on the 2012 Olympic team, but it wasn't really until he went to the Lakers. It wasn't really until he retired, that Kobe retired, that he was able to kind of fully embrace LeBron because they weren't competitors. They weren't adversaries at that point. the interesting about the whole LeBron, Michael Jordan thing is, I truly believe this. I don't think they're ever going to have a relationship.
No.
And I don't think it has anything to do with either one of them, though.
No. Yeah.
I personally believe it has more so to do with everything on the outside. See, no one ever compared Kobe Bryant to LeBron James.
No.
No one.
No.
So it's easy to have a conversation with guys because I've never heard anybody put us toe to toe. I've never heard it, so I don't have any animosity towards you. I don't have to turn on the TV and see who's better, LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. I never saw that often enough for it to affect.
Right, and we didn't compete head to head enough.
Yes.
Also to make that a conversation either. Right.
So I think. Well, I mean, neither did Michael and LeBron.
True.
And yet they get compared to all the time. I think LeBron and Michael, the discourse has been so nasty and so gross that I don't know if there's a way for them to overcome all of that.
Maybe. I think maybe, but it would take years of LeBron not playing and him being kind of like a business person for them to actually like come together and have that type of relationship. Because we already know who like LeBron's friends are in the NBA. And same thing, like we know who Jordan's friends were and are in his current state of life. So their paths really haven't crossed that way like a lot. Like LeBron was chasing Kareem's scoring title. So he's got more he's got more to actually talk about with Kareem than he does with Mike anyway. And that's what I think. That's why I think that's true. Is like they never really had a reason for their paths to cross. I think a good example of paths crossing correctly, Lou Brock and Ricky Henderson. Right, you were chasing my steals title, and you know what? I was okay with that. I was rooting for it. So that gave us more of a reason to come together and form a relationship. What has there ever been for them to actually come together? Like you said, because of how the discourse, no discourse has ever brought us together.
Right.
That's the problem. All the discourse has been trying to elevate one or the other, use nasty, examples to bring one down to elevate the other. Like that has been a problem. But if it happens, it'll have to be those two just being like, hey, you know what? Cut the bull crap. Let's just talk.
He also mentioned they talked about opening night and what it meant for him to see Bronny and all that kind of stuff. He says he was floating during the opening night with Bronny. And he just felt like he wasn't really there. Like he was almost like sort of like me at the Playboy Cardi concert.
You were there, but you don't really remember it.
Yeah, I was there, but I was also floating out the car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like my body was here. Yeah. I was in cloud nine.
Right, I was in cloud nine, literally. Yeah. I think when I saw that, when he talked about Brian and all that kind of stuff, I think it made me understand more why he is so protective of him. Yeah. Right? He had the heart ailment in USC, and you don't know when your son's going to play basketball again. Yep. So, I'm going to take this chance and play with him because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know. Right? I don't know how many years I'm going to left to play. I don't know how many years he has left to just do physical activity. Who knows? Right? Yep. So I think to him and talk about it and how he was floating, how he wasn't there, it made me understand more why he was so for him coming to the league now. Yeah. And why he did what he did to make him come to the league. Because you saw he was very, happy. He's talking about Bronny and all the progress he's made.
Well, he's a father talking about his son. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm glad that we've never broached the topic on our pod that much when it comes to Bronny. Because I'm just like, you know what? At the end of the day, I think he can be a good basketball player. And do I think the timing was right? No, but at the end of the day, that's a conversation between a father and their son. I'm not in that room. I don't have much room to speak about that. So like you said, I do get why you're defensive because you weren't there. You weren't there. So because you weren't there, don't talk about it like you are.
Right. Before we get to the big stuff, he says when it comes to leaving the game, which kind of makes sense. He said he'll step away once he stops falling in love with the process. And by the process, he means
you get up,
practice,
film,
work out, train, all that kind of stuff.
Gotta travel.
Yeah. He said the day he wakes up and he doesn't have to do that, or he doesn't feel like doing it, he'll stop. And it made me think about Isaiah Thomas. Because Isaiah Thomas said that's when he knew he was done. Because he said he woke up and for the first time ever, he didn't want to go to the gym. And that had, because he said they were there. I think they were on a road trip maybe.
Got you.
And they was at the hotel. He went by the pool. And they had to be at the plane or be somewhere, the team bus. And he just stayed at
the pool.
Yeah.
It's like, man,
I don't want to go.
Yeah. The pool kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to get up.
I see you out the game.
My back cracking, my neck cracking.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, he like tore his Achilles or something like that. Like he had like a major injury. And he felt like a lot of it contributed to the fact that he had already mentally left the game.
Got you.
Before, but he still kept playing, but he was already gone. He was already retired. So he wasn't training the same way, was doing the training, and he felt like that would be led to him getting hurt, which ultimately pretty much ended his career.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a nice takeaway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it won't, in his mind, I can mentally, he even mentioned that he's not physically the same player, but mentally he's still the same player. Right? Mentally he still has what it takes to get through everything, get through all the wear and tear of your body and all that kind of stuff because he still loves the game. But the minute you mentally can't handle it, I think it goes for anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it goes for any career, relationship, something. The moment that your mind is elsewhere and you're in it, it is time to go.
It's done.
Yeah.
He also talked about the disconnect and like, okay, so they asked him about being the face of the league. Right. And he said he's never really felt like that was. They asked like, what moment do you feel like the face of the league? He never felt like there was a definitive moment. It just kind of happened. And he mentioned that he felt like after Jordan retired for the third time, after the Wizards, he felt like there was a disconnect between the fans and the players. So let's just kind of take you back. So this is circa 2003.
Yeah.
Right. So remember, Jordan retiring, LeBron's coming into the league.
Yep.
So at this point, your stars are Kobe Bryant, who's having the Colorado thing. Shaq.
Yep. Who's Shaq?
Yeah, it's Shaq. But it's this, he's waning. This is after the whole Kobe Shaq thing and all that kind of stuff. You got Vince Carter.
Yep.
Right? Who's starting to kind of get into that. He's in that era where he wasn't really dunking as much.
Yeah.
The Toronto fans were turning on him. Allen Iverson, braids, tattoos, and plus the Sixers were losing around that time.
Yeah.
Right? So Tracy McGrady, who really doesn't have that much of an outgoing personality. Yeah. You got Paul Pierce in Boston. They're not.
Wade, maybe.
Well, he wasn't in the league yet.
That's right. He wasn't in the league
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
And plus, so he felt like, and plus, you gotta remember at that time how the guys were.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking that baggy clothes, hip hop, gold chain wearing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And like this is right before David Stern starts coming down on everybody.
Yeah, so he felt like, and then even with the Malice in the Palace, like that era of just like how the players were hyper aggressive and all that kind of stuff. Remember, you got a lot of young guys coming into the league because of the high school to pro pipeline that was happening. So he felt like there was a disconnect between what fans wanted out of their players
and what players wanted to be.
Because remember, in the 90s, you got guys like, again, you got Jordan, Space Jam. You got Shaq. Again, a different version of Shaq.
Yeah.
Remember, he's Kazam. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got Karl Malone, with DDP on Monday Night Nitro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got Charles Barkley. Like, these guys they were different.
Yeah.
They were older and they were different type of guys, right? And then before they got Magic and Bird, just a Dr. J, more different stalwarts, and they carried themselves very differently.
Yeah.
So when you get to this new era of players, I can see where the disconnect between what fans were used to and what they were getting.
Yeah, well, I think a great analogy would be like wrestling around the time, right? Like when you have this switch from the what was before Ruthless Aggression, what was that called?
Attitude
Era to Ruthless Aggression, and you have something that you want to represent yourself as. You have what people want, and when that clashes, it might not always work.
Right.
I think that's kind of the same example that you put, where it's like, no, this is who we are, and the hardest part about being in a public entertaining thing is getting people to understand, like, no, that's who they were. This is who we are. We take it or leave it. And
well, the thing though, it's easy to do when you're not selling something.
True.
But the league you can't just say who we are.
I know.
Because the fans can be like, well, we don't want it.
Yeah.
And so, and they didn't, and it showed, right? Some of those finals ratings around that time were some of the worst ever, right? So I think LeBron was like, you know what? I'm gonna just
play the game.
I'm gonna be a nice role model, right? I'm not gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna do no crazy stuff. I'm gonna be somebody that fans, sort of like around the same time, John Cena.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be more somebody you guys can look at to and be proud of, and I'm gonna like take that on the mantle. Like I'm gonna carry that.
Yeah,
I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna shy away from it. You know, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now on to the big one.
Yep.
Obviously, Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
And LeBron.
And we're having these
been going back and forth.
Yeah.
And so he kind of just talked about just not like he felt like he went out of bounds.
Yeah.
You know, he felt like because LeBron said he had no problem with the media doing their job. You want to talk about Bronny and what he does on the basketball court, that's fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you start challenging me as a father, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Right? He brought up the example of Joel Embiid with the reporter. We talked about that.
Yep.
Like how
that's out of bounds. 100% out of bounds.
Bringing up his dead brother and all that kind of stuff, that's nothing to do with
basketball.
My play. That's nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not basketball.
And then if you do think that's something to do with my play, don't write that. Don't say it. You know, you can think it all day long, but that's irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I think you cross a line. And he felt like a lot of journalists are habitual line steppers. Like they just keep crossing the line. He felt like Stephen A. Smith was one. Now, Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
His rebuttal. Whew. So first off, he called LeBron a liar, flat out.
Yeah.
Said LeBron's lying. Said he never talked about him as. He said this is what he said about the as a father comment. He said that LeBron James, the father, got Bronny James drafted. He said LeBron, because technically, LeBron James, the player, that does nothing for you.
Yeah.
He's not contributing for you to win a title this year.
Yeah.
So LeBron James, the player, should not care. Why was my mom FaceTiming me? Trying to hit her with the LeBron James the player, that doesn't help you, but LeBron James the father, you're the one that made the comment about I'll take whatever he drafted, I'll go and I'll take whatever. So yes, I'm going to address the father because that's the one that's the one that caused this.
Yeah.
The player didn't cause this.
Yeah.
Right? The father did. So yes, as a father, put a stop to this, he's saying have him stay in the G League.
Yeah, right.
You had the power to get him drafted.
Now let him stand on his own.
Now use that same power as a father that you use to keep him in the G League where he's thriving.
Yeah.
That way, he can build up his confidence, build up his game. So when he does come up here, he doesn't look like how he looked in that Philly game.
Yeah.
Right. That's what he said as a father. He didn't mean like, yo, we cover like what he do at home.
True.
And what you do off the court. He said the father got him drafted. So the father's the one that needs to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what he meant. So what do you think about that?
I think this is the problem where I don't think they're ever going to see eye to eye, unfortunately, because I see both point of views, but I don't think they see the point of view that each other is making. Right? LeBron is saying, stop calling me out as a father. Stephen A is saying, which you're right. Stephen A is saying, but you LeBron James, the basketball player, he's right. The basketball player wasn't vouching for Bronny because the basketball player wouldn't vouch for Bronny.
Right.
The father vouched for Bronny. That's true. That I agree with Stephen A. That's true. Now I don't think they can ever sit down and meet those point of views because they both think they're right. Yeah. Unfortunately.
And I'll just kind of read all of my notes real quick. Start from there. He says that he doesn't like LeBron flat out. Yeah. He said he felt like LeBron James is passive aggressive, two-faced, and will smile in your face and then turn around and stab you in the back, which is why he doesn't like him. Stephen A. Smith says LeBron doesn't like smoke, but will give smoke, which is another reason why he doesn't like him. He said he was almost on the shop, but had two caveats. He wanted LeBron to be there and wanted nothing edited out. So he wanted everything we do, air it. He said he knows things that the public doesn't know, but LeBron James knows that Stephen A. Smith knows which is another reason why he quote unquote don't like. Why he feel like LeBron doesn't like him. He said he doesn't take back the as a father comment. And he also feels like the incident between him at the game. When he feels like it was a setup because he said LeBron just looked at the camera after confronting Stephen A. Smith. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah. So those criticisms are right. Mm-hmm. I don't think LeBron wants to admit it, but yeah, you can be mad passive aggressive. The
passive aggressive comment that we know that's a fact. LeBron is a super.
That is a fact. I agree with him on the whole. He doesn't want smoke, but he gives a lot out of it. Mm-hmm. So Stephen A. Smith in his criticisms of LeBron are the common criticisms of LeBron.
Do you think LeBron's one of those people who like? Okay, you know what? Let's use last year as an example.
Yeah.
Let's use that as an example. Him and Drake are friends.
Yes.
Right? You think LeBron's one of those people who like, hey, I don't think I did anything wrong, so I don't see why you're mad at me. Yeah. Even though everybody else kind of can be like, okay, we can see why you be mad. Yes. But LeBron's like, well,
because I think in this original thing that's kind of started this fight, I don't think LeBron can see Stephen A. Smith's viewpoint, which I think is a credible viewpoint.
Yeah,
both of you are right, but you can't see that, right? I think Stephen A. Smith would be more willing to acquiesce some points. I don't think LeBron would be willing to acquiesce any of his points.
I think LeBron is a guy who wants. I don't think he likes confrontation.
No,
I don't. I definitely think that he wants. I think he definitely gives me
got control the narrative type.
The narrative guy, which is why you rarely see him in any type of production that doesn't have anything attached to like Spring Hill or anything. He does uninterrupted, right? And so when he says when Stephen A. Smith goes, he has no problem giving smoke, but doesn't take. I believe that.
Yeah,
I get that vibe from him, like because again, go back to last year. Like, your man's is mad at you.
Yeah.
But you probably walking around like,
it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What you mad at me for? Like, it's like, well, dog, like.
Because like, dog, well, one, you not from LA.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. You keep telling them to play and all that. Like, yeah, you smiling in my face, but then your actions. Yeah, it's not matching up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what he said the two-faced thing is with LeBron, which is, LeBron, you say this, you say that, I do this, I do that. We talk about the role model thing that he mantle on. I'm this guy, I don't get in trouble, I'm honest, I'm straightforward, and all this kind of stuff. But then, behind the scenes, allegedly, you doing all this other dirt. Right? Which is where the two-faced comment comes in. Your actions and your words don't match up.
Yep.
So there's an insincerity there that Stephen probably feels like LeBron is fake and insincere.
I can believe that. I can
not saying it's true or not. I'm saying that's what Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, but I can believe it based if Stephen A. Smith's sources are accurate and this information that he gets is accurate. I can see how Stephen A. Smith has seen the image of a man who is like, I don't believe you too much. I think you BS a lot, and that genuineness is a faux genuineness. It's fugazi.
Yeah,
it's fugazi, and for a guy like Stephen A. Smith, I can see that could be a problem. I can see Stephen A. Smith not liking fugazi.
There's nothing worse. Let's just say Stephen A. Smith's right.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than knowing something about somebody that everybody else doesn't know, and then you see them get all this love, praise, and all this praise. And it's like, man, like, right, such a great guy.
If you knew what I knew.
If you only knew. And I can see that just pissing you off. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, whatever, dog. You know what I mean? I wish I knew. I mean, obviously, Smith, he's a part of the cloth, so he's going to take it to his grave. But I do wish that we had some more, like, examples.
Well, I think the problem that comes with this, and this is for anyone who's a popular figure, is when you do something like that, it will be rejected because everyone just assumes, well, oh, you're just hating, right? You're just trying to stop on somebody's shine because you don't like them. When in reality, if this information is true, I'm trying to give y'all the truth, and unfortunately, you're rejecting it. And for a guy like Stephen A. Smith, who's also a very high-profile public figure, that doesn't benefit me very much,
Right.
unfortunately.
What do you think about Stephen A's, the fallout from it since, right? He went, going on the podcast, making 2 errors on First Take.
Yeah.
The first one, the fact that LeBron wasn't at Kobe Bryant's memorial, and he was.
Yeah.
He said Nolan Richardson, the legendary coach at Arkansas, the 40 Minutes of Hell, whatever, said he was dead. He's not. He's alive.
Yeah.
And just, LeBron said he was going on a Taylor Smith era tour run or whatever. Because anytime somebody makes a comments about it, he has to address it, he has to talk about it. What do you think about what's happened to Stephen Smith over this past week and his reaction to everything that's taken place?
I definitely think he got a little too emotional this week, which I don't blame him. But at some point, you're the journalist / media personality. You do have to carry yourself a little bit differently.
Right.
You do have to make sure that what you say is accurate. Because like it or not, the bar for the player is lower than you.
Right.
So you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. You should have done what you usually do, right? Come on, be very stoic, serious. Say, hey, I disagree. This is why, and keep it pushing. That's what I think he should have done. Now, we're all human. I understand why he did what he did. I probably would have done the same thing myself. But I'm not Stephen A. Smith. I got to have that leeway to kind of crash out a little bit.
Right.
You can't afford to crash out with these new contracts that you've been getting.
I think that's why he's upset. There's nothing worse than having a victory taken from you.
Yeah.
I've worked my entire career to get to this point. I earned this contract.
Yep.
I earned it. You know what I mean? I'm the most known media sports personality, probably, at least in the United States. Maybe the world, who knows?
Yeah.
Obviously soccer's big, so I don't know who's the biggest person.
Yeah.
But,
But at least in the United States,
right? You're on
North
the number
America.
one. You're on the number one sports show, right? I'm the guy.
Yeah.
This is my moment.
Yep.
And
This is my network.
and you took it.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you punked me.
Yeah.
On not Nash TV, but you punked me.
You pumped me. You pumped me out in L.A.
Yeah.
Which I agree. That's a bitch move.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so I think Stan Smith, because this is the first time we've really seen him sweat like this. I remember he felt of some type of way with Terrell Owens.
Yeah.
When he made the comments, back in the day.
Yeah.
When Max Kellerman, remember he said he wasn't. People think he's black and all that.
Yeah. And to be fair, T.O. was out of line for that.
Yeah, he was out of pocket. But it's rare. Normally he keeps it, but I think this time, and also with his new platform, I think he feels a little bit more loose.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just gonna let y'all just say what y'all want. I'm gonna get my piece off too.
And I think the only good thing that I've seen him come out of this is for him to go to other platforms as well.
Yes.
I think that is a good step for him. It's like, you know what? If I can't say it on ESPN, there are other platforms for me to go to where I'm not as beholden to my image there. And that's probably the best move that he should keep doing. It's like, hey, when you got time, go to these other platforms and speak your piece. If you can't speak it on yours or on ESPN's.
Now, I've been asking myself if that's something I do like or dislike about this new age of podcasts and journalists and all that kind of stuff, is that there used to be an age where our journalist writes the column.
Yep.
Column goes out. The said athlete who our article's about, we get asked about it, or they would read it and they comment about it.
Yep.
And maybe the journalist has a rebuttal, but maybe not. It just lives, breathes, and just dies. That's the story, right?
Yeah.
But in this day and age, there's a lot of back and forth happening. Yeah. And obviously it's nice for the headlines, but I also think it creates a continuously further divide. You know what I mean?
I understand that, but unfortunately that died with the 24-hour news cycle, unfortunately,
right,
where you always just had to keep having news in the foreground. So I don't blame this data. I think that happened with the 24-hour news cycle anyway.
But when did it change that the journalists started? I'm trying to think, as someone who went to school for it and got a degree in it. I'm trying to think, when did it change from when because the athletes always gonna bark back, right?
Yeah.
Remember the infamous incident on ESPN with Floyd Mayweather got into it. Well, I forgot the guy's name. So athletes will always feel the type of way. You think about in the 90s, Jim Rome.
Yeah.
Get into it
with
Everett. Jim Everett?
Jim Everett.
Yeah, because he kept calling him Chris Everett, the tennis
yeah.
player, who's a woman, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is why he got mad.
Yeah.
So they always going with that was disrespectful.
And I think that's where it started, though. Like when small moments like that, where unfortunately the disrespect came from one side, and athletes kind of felt like I couldn't respond, which is how we got to the new media thing where athletes were like, I gotta respond. And there should have been more respect given to the athletes as people.
I agree with that.
I think that was the problem. That's why players feel the way they feel now, is that they haven't been respected. And now you have to get back to a point, and that's on the network itself being like, hey, chill. All right.
Well, the thing about it with these networks is, and I've said this for a long time, once the news was able to be bought, it was over.
Yeah.
Right? When all the way, I'm talking about going all the way back to the Hearst family, and
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And them owning, buying all
back
that kind
in
of
the
stuff.
19 whatever.
Yeah. You know, way back then, the minute that people found out that you could buy the news, it was over.
Yeah.
It was over, and it's just being a de-evolution sense, right? There was a brief period where it was still holding on, especially when we had Walter Cronkite, who was the most trusted man in news and all that kind of stuff. But once it started to devolve from that, it kind of went up in smoke, kind of went up in flames. And so, yeah, that was it. But, yeah, I there's been too many incidents where journalists have disrespected a lot of athletes. I think about the Rob Parker comment about he called, I think, RG3 a cornball brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's always kind of been just kind of like nasty like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, yeah, it sucks. It's nasty.
Yeah.
But I also didn't like the fact that he took a shot at Brian Windhorst.
Yeah, the Brian Windhorst stray caught me off guard.
Right.
Because Brian Windhorst has been nothing but kind to you. So, like, what are you calling him out for?
That was lame.
That I didn't like.
LeBron.
Yeah.
You know, there's no video you can find of Brian Windhorst saying, me and LeBron James are best friends.
No.
LeBron made that up.
Yep.
To discredit Brian Windhorst.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, goes out of his way. If there's anybody who defends the league the most,
who defends basketball,
it's
Brian Windhorst.
It's Brian Windhorst. He defends it the most. He defends LeBron the most. Defends KD. So like that's the thing about some of these athletes. Like they're just so angry at the media that they taking shots at anybody.
Exactly.
They don't even know who.
Taking a shot at Brian Windhorst was the wrong move because he's an advocate.
Yeah.
He's someone you want in your corner.
Exactly.
Because he lives for telling stories and good stories and uplifting stories.
Right.
You want him on your side. Mm-hmm. And that was goofy. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I just thought that was unbecoming of LeBron. I thought he was a little bit better than that, man. Yeah. Moving on from there, Memphis Grizzlies.
Yes.
Have fired head coach Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah.
Shockingly, the playoffs are literally around the corner.
Yep.
The Grizzlies will be in the playoffs.
Yep. They got to play the Lakers today or tomorrow. Yeah. I think it's tomorrow to see who might get that tiebreaker to keep that fifth and fourth seed.
And he's out of a job.
Yep.
Your thoughts on that?
I've been trying to figure out like why, and the only thing that I can see is that once again it's a belief thing. I don't know if the organization believes that Taylor Jenkins is the coach.
They didn't. He's gone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they didn't believe that he's the coach that helped them make it to that next level.
You're right.
Right. I think the Cleveland was an example that a lot of people brought up. Right. Cleveland made a lot of strides forward, but when it came to winning in the playoffs, they didn't think J.B. Bickerstaff was the guy. Mm-hmm. We'll see now if Kenny Atkinson is that guy. But I think that's what it was. It's just like, hey, we don't think you're the guy. And we want someone who's going to get us over the hump. Mm-hmm. We've been in the playoffs with you before.
Right.
We've kind of seen how it plays out. We need a little bit more.
A couple of things. One with Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah.
One with Taylor Jenkins. One, you've showed over the last couple of years a lack of control. Let's call it institutional control.
Got you. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So first red flag.
Yep.
Two, let's just say you don't have institutional control, but you can still win.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen teams be wild and still win, right?
Yeah, like the Lakers.
Right, you know what I mean? So you didn't even win it.
Yeah.
So all right, so that's another problem. So last offseason, they made a lot of changes. Fired his entire coaching staff. Now as a coach, when your whole coaching staff gets let go, you should be like that SpongeBob meme.
Yeah.
Like, or the Mr. Krabs meme.
Yep.
Like, all right, something's amiss here. So they bring in a guy who because they wanted a different offense to be ran, right? Yep. They wanted less pick and rolls, and they wanted more ball movement and kind of things of that nature. And it worked. Their scoring went up, but it also affected their best player, Ja Morant, who thrives with the ball in his hand, who thrives with the pick and roll, right? Yep. So that created a divide right there between your star player and the coaching staff. And ultimately, over this last stretch, Ja missing 30-plus games, they went on a losing streak. And I think, like you said, it comes down to the belief. We don't believe you're the head coach.
Yeah.
So rather than we're going – not only do we not believe in the head coach, we don't believe in this current team.
Yeah.
We know for a fact this team ain't making no run.
Yep.
Because we've had – when we were like at our apex a couple years ago, when we were all healthy, we couldn't get past the Lakers, right?
Yep.
So this team right now, with our star player being as injury prone as they are, and our defense not being what it is, we damn sure ain't in the point. So what's the point of dragging this out? We gonna fire you anyway.
Yeah.
So rather than wasting time and go through all this, let's see what the guy who we brought in to lead the offense. Let's give him a chance to see what he can do.
These next couple games.
Let's go in the playoffs, see what it looks like. And let's just move on from you.
Yeah.
Because I think Shannon Sharp always says it best. Don't accept anything in a win that you wouldn't accept in a loss.
Right. Yes.
Right. Same thing applies.
Yeah.
So we gonna get rid of you. There's nothing. We gonna get rid of you anyway. We're not gonna accept anything. You know what I'm saying?
We've seen 6 years of you.
Yeah.
And we kind of know what you are.
Yeah.
We're good.
It's sort of like with the Bucks, right?
Yes.
Remember, with the Bucks knew they wanted to fire Mike Budenholzer.
Yeah.
The only reason they couldn't fire because he won a championship.
Yep. Yeah. It would have looked bad, but you should have done it anyway.
Nothing about that when they felt like was on him.
Yep.
They probably looked at their mind. You know what? Why did we win that title? KD foot was a size 14.
Yep.
Ben Simmons don't like dunking the ball.
Yep.
So we lucked up placing the Hawks.
Yeah.
Got them up out of there.
Yeah. And DeAndre Ayton couldn't beat Giannis with his hand tied, with Giannis' hands tied behind his back.
Right, and Giannis dropped 50 points. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't win because you were some great mind. Ooh, you didn't like, oh my God, you know.
Out-coach any coach that you played.
Right. We won off just
circumstance and talent.
Talent, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, in their mind, there was nothing he was going to do that was going to change the fact. And they probably thought, we'll give him, obviously, can't fire him after winning. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. Well, technically, Jerry Jones kind of said the person, you actually can do that.
Yeah.
You can, in fact.
You can do that.
You know what I'm saying? But they held on to him too long.
Yep.
And which led to them hiring Adrian Griffin, which led to them firing Adrian Griffin and hiring Doc Rivers, right? Yep. So I think that they said, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah,
we're not gonna. We want you gone now. So rather before getting our fans' hopes up, because you go to the playoffs and some lucky bullshit happens, we get to the Western Conference Finals and then we flame out. We want you gone. We don't believe in you. Yep. We want to start anew. You gotta go now.
Yep.
So I actually kind of admire them for it.
Yeah, I'm
kind of in a weird way.
At first, I was shocked, but then I'm like, you know what? They don't believe in him.
Yeah,
they don't believe in him, so it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Let's just get this over with.
Right.
Because a relationship example, right? When you're in a relationship that's kind of failing, what should you do?
End it.
Mm-hmm. End it. Why should I see this out? Don't buy an engagement ring. Mm-hmm. Don't tell your parents and family I'm gonna marry her. No, don't do any of that, bro.
Right. Once you know it's over, it's over. Even if I used to think it was foul when I would hear about people breaking up with people right before, like, the holidays, like days before Christmas, days before Thanksgiving, days before their birthday. But I think also, once you know, why wait? Why wait?
Why wait?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to pretend. I don't want you to be like, well, what about Christmas and the Thanksgiving?
I was kind of going through the motions.
You know what I'm saying? Like, rather than BS my way through that, they just end it now. That way you don't expect anything and all that kind of stuff, because I'm going to feel the same. So I get it.
Yeah.
But man, that's all the time we have for you guys today, man. You can follow me at Facebook at Bryce Olding. Follow me on Instagram at Bryce David Olding. Bryce, go and tell them.
From my Twitter, Bruce Leroy.
And remember, you'd hear from the horses of the mouth to listen to ads who told you we out. Peace.